Well, the track is part of my life because I started there when I was, I think I went there when I was like 11 or 12. And I went along there, and the first person I met when I walked in the gate was this gentleman called Dave Creasy, and he's still there now. He's still my coach. He's like a mentor. He takes me to races. And I know it's that sort of story, but I think it changed my whole life because, I mean, I was sort of playing with my friends like in little gangs. We weren't getting into trouble really. My father always said, when I was 11, he said, if I ever catch you stealing, I'll break your legs. Anyway, back to cycling. But it sort of changed my whole life because I was just going to, to high school, to secondary school, and they got me to do homework in the evening, and I met a good group of friends, and it was just a sport. It just, it's just every night after doing homework, there was somewhere to go. You went to the track, you went training. During the winter we used to go running, go circuit train. It was just a whole different life, and it was just that I had a goal, and lucky enough I had a little bit of talent because 3 years later I was national champion of the whole country, and then by the time I was 15, I was a Londoner and I was going to places like Argentina, for world championships. So it's been great. I thought, right, I'm going to let go. I went down like on the track. I thought, I'm going fast. And they came past me. Like I was standing still.
How devoted and how disciplined you have to be a cyclist. I think, or any sports person, you have to be a very selfish kind of person, and I've seen how Russell does it, and you have to be that way, otherwise you won't achieve anything. All my friends used to say, Russell, he would go away for 9 months at a time. And my friends would say, you must be mad. You're here with the children. He shouldn't be going. He should be. But actually, I thought, well, one of us is doing something we really want to do. He wants to be a cyclist, and that's what he wants to do, and that's okay. But it was difficult. It wasn't an easy time, but it was something that I was prepared to do.
Because I really wanted success, because I thought the success would bring the money, make everybody happy. So I always did think of Kathy, because Kathy's always the first thing I think of. But I thought, right, the way to make us all happy is to do really well, and really well that means I've got to do well in my sport. So, I didn't think of seeing her at lunchtime or doing so many things together. It was just going out there, do what I had to do, come back and see her in the evening, sort of thing.
We were the only married couple. No, and we were the only one with children. No, all of Russell's cycling friends, including coaches, none of them were married. It was very much a single life, and that has been over the years quite a difficult thing to cope with. It's a bit cold. Look at you diving in there.
I've been cycling since I was 13, and I'm 38 now. Mind you, I lied last week for television. I told them I was 29, and they believed me. So. Honestly, I can sit here and say I've had a really good life, really good. I mean, I've travelled all around the world. You meet important people. I've been, British champion 8 times, and I've been second. I mean, I think I've got 45, 50 medals. Silver and bronzes and things like that.
When Russell was away, I was very happy doing my own thing. I've had a career as a professional singer. I've supported the whole family doing that for a while, and that also obviously included being there for Russell, making sure that I took care of the family so he could do what he wanted. But then there comes a point when you think, I'm not sure I can do this anymore. I'm not sure that I can be totally selfless anymore. I need Russell to be here for me a bit more now. I'd been for so many years, saying, it's okay, you go off and do what you want. And actually I got to a point where I said, well, hang on, can you remember I'm here, at the back? I'd like to be remembered a bit more often. That bit's really big.
I sit down and think, right, okay, I'm like 40 in a couple of years or 39, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? And there's some things, you can do, like, I'm not a mechanic, I'm not a commentator, but what I am good at is working with kids. And now I've done like a big 360, big circle now. So instead of being the small young rider, I'm now the coach. And the young boys call me the dinosaur, even though I still beat them, So I've done a big circle and I'm coaching them now, and it's good.
And I think, Russell's relationship with the children changed as well. He became much more of a dad that was around rather than a dad that was kind of not. And I think it made me look at myself for a change. I thought, hold on, who am I? What sort of person am I? And the result of which was that I decided, well, okay, I want to spend a little bit of time focusing on me for a change, think about what I'd like to do in my life and do it. So I decided that I'd train to be a counsellor. And the problem was that I at this point, I realised that I was swapping from being a woman who was at home with her children, who went to work, came home, looked after the kids, went to work, came home. I had a routine. And suddenly I was about to turn that totally on its head, because I was going to become this person that had a career of my own, or at least had an idea of my own of what I wanted to do. And it would mean going to college, it would mean studying, it would mean not being at home as much, it would mean having to negotiate some of my time to use for myself. And I must admit, I wasn't used to it, and it was a big challenge.
I thought when Kathy said, she was going to become a counsellor, I thought, how can I put it? It was going to be, I didn't think it was going to be as hard as it was. We all supported them, but I didn't realise how many extra hours you had to do, apart from doing the work from, 8 till 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, and then sort of 3 or 4 nights you have to go out, possibly a weekend, plus you've got to do the homework. So, we're really proud of her that she got through it. And and I think it's changed Kathy as well.
Russell and the children, they were all really supporting me during that period, and it was hard for them. I remember the little ones, Josh and Zach, every now and again saying, "Oh, you're not out to see yet another client. You're not going to see somebody else tonight." But I remember Hayley quite quickly saying to them, "Oh, look, Mummy's doing this, and we said it would be okay, and so it will be okay." And I remember thinking, being really grateful that they were looking after me like that.
It was a proud moment, especially when she got the certificate, got the diploma certificate, and it's all hung up, and she'd do a good job.
I get in the office at 8 o'clock in the morning so that I can do quite a long day, really. But the reason why I do that is I have 3 children, so we have 3 children. So I like to be able to be more available at the end of the day, so that when they've come home from school, at least there's time to talk to them and see how their day's gone and things like that. So I get in earlier to try and get back a bit earlier. I think it'd be really useful if we roll them on. I think it's really important to raise your children and to be there for them and talk to them when they need to talk to you, not when it's convenient, when you've got that 5 minutes.
Don't you think?
Yeah. When the children were smaller, I wanted very much to raise them, in a religious way, because that's how I was brought up.
Okay, 1 serving spoon. Right, should we start straight away? Yeah, let me serve this out first. Yeah,
and then Zach, you could say grace. Zach. We're a Catholic family, we do things as a Catholic family. God is part of our life, and it helps me. There were times when I've been really troubled and thought, I don't know what to do and what's the right thing. And actually, the one thing that's always there that's kind of there for you to call on is your faith, and it's been the one thing the one thing that I've been able to hang on to that's helped make sense of some really difficult things for me, personal things. Russell's always told me that he likes the way that our Catholicism influences the way we are. So Russell's always been in favour of that. So,
and I feel happy, and things are working out well, and I just feel grateful when it's all due to, to God above.
In the morning, it's Nancy who gets up first because our Ben wakes up first.
Yes, Ben's my living alarm clock. When he screams into the baby phone, I get up and feed him.
I get up and prepare breakfast so that we can start the day together. Then it's 8 o'clock and time for Nancy to leave. She goes off on her bicycle. A day of paternity leave is much the same as going to work. You have to plan your day to fit in the tasks that have to be done. I think that we would rather live having enough for our needs but no more, rather than work much harder to make more money. I mean, that would mean less time at home and less time for the family. It was a serious choice for me after my studies not to go into accountancy, even though I could have made a lot of money that way. An accountant does make a lot of money, but only by working long hours from morning till evening. I'm happy having chosen to be at home and have time with the children. I had to learn to be tender with our children. As a youngster, I had little contact with small children, so I didn't know how to get along with them. When you become a father, you grow into it, but you also choose to do it. I really enjoy playing with our children, being involved with them. Even when our Ben was very little, there was a strong bond between us. Now he's 9 months old and seems quite big already. I would advise every man to go for paternity leave. I discovered a new outlook on the home and housework. It's said to be an occupation in its own right, and that's true. To do the laundry, iron, clean, cook, wash the children, give them new nappies and generally make the household run smoothly. At the start, I really had to adapt to the new experience. If I had to choose between my career and my partnership, I'd choose to give more time to my partnership. In fact, I've really made that choice already. When I took paternity leave, I chose to have more time with my children, although other people said I would never get ahead in my career.
Al die schoen er nog in tonen, met. Is die schoen goed?
Ja.
Okay.
I feel that he is a real father, a father to the heart of his being, who's really there for his children.
Eerst geld geven, met. Open doen.
Well, I wouldn't say that I have no career ambitions. When I'm on leave, I sometimes think, it's very nice to be at home, but I would like to work full-time again because my work is an important part of me. But I feel more fulfilled being involved with my children, with the neighbours and with friends. There's more warmth in it than in money.
I work as an occupational therapist in a hospice. The patients are elderly people approaching death, so it involves geriatric nursing. I don't think I'd like to be at home all the time with the children. I'd miss the fulfilment I get from my work, which comes from that feeling of doing something worthwhile. You can achieve some things at home, of course, but the combination of a job and child rearing is ideal. Being a Christian means doing things for others. It's trying to give people a little happiness, contributing something to their life. I also think it's important in this context that we give children a sense of justice, honesty and concern for others.
Nee, een purperen. Een purperen. Ja, dat is een goeie, voilà. En nu mogen we hem hier leggen. Ja. Allee, Simon, smijt rood. En de soep is daar al.
There is a tension between my family life, which is important, and my work, where I want to succeed and make a career. When you make a choice in this sort of situation, you always lose something, but you also gain a lot. Maybe because I have an optimistic outlook on life, I always look at the things I gain rather than those that I've left behind.
Nancy's decision to work closer to home has also been helpful.
People sometimes tell us that we live in an ideal situation, that we're so lucky it happened like that, but actually, to a great extent, we chose to make it happen. If we'd both stayed working, if I'd never changed my job and Bart had never opted for paternity leave, then we too would be a family in which the children have to get up in the morning at 7 to go to the creche or maybe to their grandparents. The source of conflict in our sex life is always that we're different.
Spontaneously, making love for me is aimed at just doing the thing. I mean, most of the time I can and do make love even when we have a conflict. Sometimes it can be a way of getting closer. For me, also, making love doesn't have to last long.
I like making love in a relaxed way. I enjoy feeling Bart all over. I like Bart touching me, being close to me, caressing me. I expect him to be slow and easygoing when we make love. When he doesn't, it irritates me. Talking to each other about sex isn't easy, and I find it very difficult to talk about what I like personally in lovemaking. It makes me feel vulnerable. If I don't know what Bart likes when we're making love, I can't give it to him, that's obvious. I find there are a lot of communication problems here. I too have certain expectations that I haven't expressed, but which I want to have satisfied somehow or other.
Yeah, we learn to talk while we're making love.
Yes, really, even while making love.
What strikes me most is that I learned to know Nancy as a woman. If I'd always been rushing to reach a climax to suit myself, I'd never learned to cherish the inner warmth which she transmits when we make love.
I also have the same feeling, especially lately, that I've learnt a lot about Bart as a man, about how a man experiences sex.
I have the feeling after 4 years of marriage that we've achieved more tranquility. At times, we've really been at odds, not knowing which direction to sail in. The issue was I had a strong desire, which she had little desire, and it was difficult to find a middle way. We were both having to compromise, and we felt frustrated.
Well, the differences between us were a sticking point, but now we appreciate the thrill of being different.
If I said, OK, I don't want to be tied to Nancy anymore, then I wouldn't make it easier for us to do our own thing. I could have other women in my life and not limit myself to Nancy. I could live for myself and have casual relationships. But I think that sexual fidelity is as important as relational fidelity. I think you become a more complete person if you can combine the two.
Ja.
We regularly try to go on outings on our bicycles or visit the seaside. Then we pack everything and set off. If we stay at home, we tend to follow a routine because there are always things that need doing at home. Just going out into the world, daring to break the pattern of our lives by going to the seaside, for instance, is something the children really enjoy. I think a lot of people are scared of choices. Choosing involves following an ideal and going in a certain direction. There were choices to be made when we first got to know each other, even before we were married. We wanted to have a clear direction for our lives. You can't plan your life in advance, but you can know what you want in life. We had to think, do we want careers? Do we want to have children? What do we each find important in our lives? That knowledge gives a clear direction to our life. I'm reminded of the text that hangs in our living room. It's, blessed be those who dare to dream, but who are also prepared to pay the price to make those dreams come true. That is really a part of our life.
A life with children is more joyful when you really make time for them. If you go on holiday and visit 5 museums, then it's likely that your children will be difficult, you'll have problems, and it won't be a nice holiday. Whenever we've been at the seaside, when we've spent time with the children and paid attention to what they liked, then it's also been a much more relaxing holiday for us.
Having children teaches you to plan and organise your life. When we got married, we used to eat or clean when it suited us. We could just go out when we felt like it, but with children, you learn to organise your life.
Real life for me is not growing into a fixed routine, not always doing the same thing, but trying out new things and learning from experience. That's what I actually find important in life.
I think Jesus was someone who could be very generous. He could be very strict, but the idea behind it was, don't just be strict, but listen. It's by listening and by talking we can grow closer to each other if we want to. And that's the way it's meant to be. By talking and by believing in one another, we'll be successful.
My job right now is just for material needs. The job seems to feel that it's more important than family. That's a sad reality because everybody's into making money. Even though they call it there's, a win-win type situation, it's all about beating the other person out. And a lot of times I could have made overtime and I haven't been able to because I needed to be home to help take care of the boys when Ellen needed to go off to work. If you have a family, you're looked down upon, I think. That's more of an American thing now. People are demanding more and more of you, but they're giving you less. The family comes first. I'm going to excel at my job. I'm going to do real well at my job, and I'm not going to be a company man.
His job, his work job, is very important to us in that it is the main source of income. It's the thing we tend to structure our life around. It's the schedule we meet. It provides important things like benefits, and the other things that come with a paycheck, a regular paycheck. It gives us the freedom, I think, to be those other things that we choose to be. My work is much less about income and more about being able to be creative and to be helpful. Both of us feel that our careers are important and recognize that importance to each other. And when I say career for Elliot, I'm saying as a musician more than his day job, as it's known. For both of us, we're lucky to have found something that we are, rather than just something we do. I am interested in relationships and working with people, and I am a counselor, I am a therapist. And whether I was that at work or when I'm spending time talking to friends or acting as a parent, it's always a part of who I am, and I enjoy that. When Elliot's off duty, he's really off duty. You sort of have to call his name twice to get his attention sometimes. And he'll miss what's going on around him if he's involved in playing music, for one thing, or watching television. He's just completely in his own head. That frustrates me sometimes because he comes in to conversations at the dinner table. Who? What? And it's like, we've been talking about this around here for a couple of weeks, Everybody else knows what we're talking about. Where have you been? When those things come up, it's usually me who would point it out and try to initiate some kind of conversation or some kind of a change. He's pretty easygoing, and he has a lot of respect for my ideas about parenting. So he tries to hear that and works at making it different. Sometimes that only lasts a week or so, but I figure 2 steps forward, 1 step back is about the best we can anticipate from any developmental process. If kids are in a bad place, their needs aren't being met, and that they really do need to be the priority. But I'd hate to think that people would use that would think that that means that instantly being divorced, everything would be better. Life is difficult too. We just have to work through a lot of things. That's our challenge. I've got a situation, as the doctor said, they said they don't cure. You don't consider breast cancer to be cured. You consider it to be managed. And so, you know, there's a lot of scary statistics out there and things that I have to think about. You know, my oldest is going to graduate from high school, and I just, every time that thought crosses my mind, I just pray that I'm going to be here for the other two to graduate, so I can be a part of that. And then I think, you know, wow, grandchildren, you know, there's a bonus. You know, that's the bonus point. Boy, if I can get to that round, I'm really going to be in good shape, you know. So I think about it a lot. I don't think we talk about it a lot, although I sometimes give him a little reality check when he's getting a little too glib about his expectations. I have to say, well, you know, I really want that too, but I guess I want him to be a little bit mentally prepared in case it doesn't go that way. He tends to want to just encourage me and say, oh, that's not going to happen, don't worry about it, that kind of thing. In so many ways, I feel so fortunate in my life. I've had such an incredible number of blessings and continue to have those. Sometimes I think, well, you know, if life was really fair, then my time's up, you know, because I've had more than my share. And I know so many people who've had so much misfortune throughout their life. But I don't think that's the way things are set up. I expect that somewhere in the long run it's all going to become fair. Maybe that's my concept of faith. But it's not a topic that he wants to spend time talking about, certainly.
When the children leave and grow away, I think it's going to have a real impact on our relationship, because Ellen is so closely tied to the children. I will be affected too. I already miss my oldest son. He's a senior in high school, and I hardly ever see him. And he's so much fun to be around, and he is so creative and energetic and very cool. For me, music is that outlet. It's my essence. It's what I've found myself in, and there are pieces of music that I can recall where I almost have an out-of-body experience because it is so, and that's how I relate to the world through that. And we've been writing music together, and it's been wonderful. Everything that we've done together is it's absolutely flawless, beautiful. And the only downside is that I wish we had started this a long time ago. And she's got a gorgeous voice, and we share music in a really wonderful, healthy way.
For both of us, the music is a creative outlet, and we do it as a job sometimes, you know, for various events, but it really is it's very much a creative outlet too.
At AMC Women's event, which is a breast cancer awareness event, Ellen was asked to write a song. She wrote the melody, and I put the whole thing into a really nice chord progression that really turned out well. And then her brothers came along and added even more cool stuff to it. It was everybody's song, which is what music is all about anyway. It's just the sharing of what you have inside that comes out as music.
اضطرينا سوا مع بعضنا مدة 3 سنين.
I'm a Catholic priest. I'm also married, which we are allowed to do in the Maronite rite before we're ordained. Vivian and I spent 3 years together, talking, praying, discussing, and asking spiritual guides to see if we could make it work. If we could have a family and still do justice to my priestly vocation. I can't live a normal life like other men who have families. They have more time for their wife and their children, but I have many responsibilities and seem to have more work than any other man. It obliges me to be away from home quite a lot. The important thing was that we came to a common decision. We talked it over very, very well. We discussed how we would share life and what to expect from each other. Because we agreed from the beginning, we avoided conflict and disappointment later.
Before we got married, I knew my husband had a mission, and this is why I accept his frequent absence from home. Maybe if he wasn't a priest, I could ask for more, but when I got married, I knew that things would be like this. My friends tell me that I made a very good choice in my husband, but they were all surprised in the beginning. They wanted me to make him change his mind and give up the idea of becoming a priest. Even my mother gave me the same advice. I used to tell them that he had convinced me of his vocation. How can you ask me to change his mind, I said.
In my life as a priest, I have a lot of obligations. I tend to forget everything around me. This is my nature. Vivian keeps reminding me that I have a home and a family, and she's right. I don't for one moment think that she's restricting my freedom or my ministry or my rights. On the contrary, she reminds me of the sacred obligation I've committed myself to in the bond of marriage. I went to school in a monastery, had my sexual education there. Our spiritual guides used to explain to us the wonderfulness of chastity and warn us to take care when we were alone with the opposite sex because there could be sexual temptation. They also explained the holiness of marriage. Vivian and I are trying to teach our children to be sensible and careful in the matter of sex. In life there's always a right place for everything, and we consider that the right place for making love resides in the sacred union of marriage. Those are the principles that we teach. But if our children do the opposite, then what can we do? At home, my mother used to take care of everything whilst my father was at work. When my father came home, he used to punish the one who deserved it and reward the one who'd been good. The picture's not the same in my own family, but sometimes I will exercise discipline. Each parent has to set an example in our life. She presents a model of motherhood, I present a model of fatherhood. We discuss these things together, but she has certainly more to do with the children than I have.
I always feel that in the family it's more the role of the mother to take care of the children. Fathers like to pamper them. I don't like the woman to be away for a long time. I think she should only have a part-time job. And this is why teaching suits me well, because I get holidays at the same time as my children. What I have in common with my husband and the things in which we complement each other outweigh our differences. Usually we have the same point of view on basic matters, although we may disagree on small ones. Well, it happens at times when we don't agree on something that he hesitates and doesn't put his foot down. We study the question thoroughly and we take a united decision.
I'd say Vivian and I complement each other. I see her as a real woman with femininity, tenderness, and at the same time I find her a responsible partner. I know I can count on her. On some occasions, before I can express my view, she will take the initiative and make a decision, and I'm stuck with it. But on the whole, I'm happy that she has so much trust in me. I tend to get nervous about things. Let's say there's a problem concerning the education of the children. I will worry, but she's the one who stays calm and patient, and then I often decide to leave the subject. So I stop talking about it, and I keep my distance and let her sort it out on her own. But finally, we will talk it over and we will come to a common position.
If I make a comparison between myself and my friends who were advising me not to marry a priest, I find that I have more freedom than they do. I feel that my marriage really helped me to develop my character and my freedom. I mean, I take decisions by myself that my sister, who isn't married to a priest, can't take. I do treasure our moments of intimacy and love. I consider sex an expression of love. It's the same as if a person gives me a bunch of flowers to express his love, and when we have sex, we try to express our love to each other. It's communicating on a deeper level.
As to sex, we live a very normal life as husband and wife. The most important thing is that our relation increases our love for each other and fulfills us as people. We always want to share more deeply and more fully in our marital union. A Christian marriage isn't easy because it requires from both partners a lot of faith and a lot of Christian commitment. Couples need good formation in order to live their Christian marriage well. Whenever I interview a couple that wants to marry, I ask many questions, and each one is related to a specific side of human life. I'm using my own experience of marriage to ask specific questions that will make them think. The opposite's also true. From my experience in the parish, I know the weak points of marital life in the family. Recently, I've been very ill. I went through some critical phases. Twice I almost died. It gave Vivian and me a chance to speak about death as we talk about other things. Both of us will die, but the one who dies last will continue to care for our family. We talked about these things openly because we have to prepare ourselves for death.
My dad was a master bread maker who afterwards had to move into the construction industry. He was always very aggressive. He came home drunk. He was an alcoholic. And when he tried to hit my mother, we all had to run away from home in the middle of the night. That's why I always feel bad when I see men drinking on a Friday night, while their families are back home waiting for them, just to have a cup of tea and a piece of bread.
He was different from all the rest of the kids of our alley. My mum always taught us that you shouldn't look at the outside of a man, but rather the inside, to make sure that he was an honest, hard-working person. And that defines Mario precisely, since by the age of 14, he had to assume full responsibility for his entire family.
We had to overcome my mother-in-law's apprehensions, as she used to say, to Berna. How on earth can you marry Mario if his father is an alcoholic, a drunkard who goes around falling flat on his face in the streets? Well, I did show her that I could be different.
With such a level of domestic violence, one might think that he was going to treat me just the same. But it was the exact opposite. Ever since we began going out, he looked after the smallest details, although he never gave me flowers.
I'm not yet through getting to know Berna, in the sense of the talents that she has. I mean, each day she surprises me with things that perhaps she didn't have the chance to do earlier, but which now she has the time, she'll be able to develop.
Mario uplifts me. I mean, he's not one of those macho men that tell you, you know nothing, you're a good for nothing. On the contrary, I've always felt supported by him. I had my own dad, mum and brothers, but ours was not a well-adjusted family, so he was aware of the kind of problems that I encountered at home.
She says that I've supported her a lot, but this kind of support is reciprocal because I go out to work and she remains in charge of the house, responsible for our 5 daughters. They have to be educated, dressed, sent to school. And when I get back home at night, I notice that someone's been taking good care of things around the house. Besides, she's a cleanliness and tidiness freak. She likes to keep the house well presented.
Only after 10 years of marriage, it was like we began to mature because both of us had got together like 2 innocent birds. Our parents never told us anything about marriage, about what was going to happen. We never received that kind of advice from our parents. I mean, we did it all alone. We've had our own share of joys and sorrows with our daughters. They're good kids, though. But it's so difficult to be parents when your daughters get pregnant. I mean, actually, both our daughters got pregnant before they got married. That was when the earth opened right up beneath my feet. I was simply not prepared for that. I got angry because one has one's own ambitions for one's kids. When I went to Mario to tell him all about this, he burst into tears. And I asked him to forgive me for not having taken proper care of our daughters. But he said to me, "You're not to blame for this. If anything, we both are." And I didn't say anything to our daughter, although I did warn her. You mustn't marry just because you're pregnant. But they decided to move their wedding date forward. It was planned for November of that year. 15 days later, our other daughter came to me with the same story. She'd also got pregnant. I fell into a deep depression then.
I was deeply hurt, and I cried then. I didn't want to do or say anything that we would have to regret in the future. In fact, she was expecting a much more violent reaction on my part.
My daughters were much more mature than I ever was at their age. It was then that I began to think, well, good upbringing in a good school, and we were always talking to them about things very straightforwardly. I always taught our daughters the right things, or both Mario and I, that is, because we didn't want them to learn these things from outsiders.
Well, naturally, all this had a terrible impact on me as a father. I kept asking myself, where did I go wrong with my daughters? All the same, we clearly told the boys, we're not forcing you to marry our daughters because we don't ever want you to blame us if things don't work out between you. So you're quite free to abandon them right now with no commitment of any kind on your part. But I think that this experience brought us all closer together, because we talked. There was a real dialogue and communication, a communication that had been there in the first place, but which flowed ever so easily then. I believe that this experience strengthened us as a family.
In the past, Mario did absolutely nothing. He just enjoyed walking around with the babies smelling good, nicely perfumed, with clean clothes, no runny noses. But he never picked up a bottle to feed the girls. In this respect, he didn't help at all.
Domestic work? Well, undoubtedly when she's alone, she does it all by herself. When I'm at home, however, we share. I do our bedroom. Sometimes I sweep the patio. Not always. Occasionally, she even gets surprised by other people telling me, "Hey, with so many women in your family, how come you do the washing and the sweeping?" Implying that one has to be macho. But with me, that's not the case.
Now Mario does all these things. Oh, but how I would have loved it if he'd done these things when the girls were little.
It's never too late to learn.
Now he takes care of our grandchildren.
Yeah, the nice thing about grandchildren is that no matter how much you pretend not to spoil them, you allow them to do things that you didn't allow your own children to do. And in our own particular case, it's even worse because we had 5 girls and our grandchildren are all boys.
When the girls got married, I said to myself, I won't stay at home any longer. I'll go out at least one day a week to find a space of my own. And that was what I said to Mario. I want to get out of the house. So I began to get to know the world outside, meet other people. I felt happy, enormously happy, because I began to value myself. I realised that I was on a par with other people, able to talk to them, because I'd felt totally useless given my meagre education. But then I began to look at life with different eyes.
Yeah, I would say that our relationship has become richer now. We do things and say things that we didn't do or say before, probably because, well, we just didn't have the time, since I had to work hard to feed such a large family. I used to come home quite tired and fed up, so the time I spent with my wife was, well, zilch. But now it's different. It's just like we've fallen in love all over again.